The persistent widow, Luke 18:1 through 8. The Pharisees opposed Jesus. The Pharisees were the teachers of the law and were always in opposition to Jesus. They were self appointed guardians of the law and its proper observances. They were extremely jealous of Jesus because the people were listening to his teachings. The Pharisees asked Jesus when the kingdom was coming. They were thinking that it was physical kingdom, but God's kingdom is spiritual, invisible. Jesus told them that the kingdom was within a person. Jesus explains the kingdom. Jesus told them that the kingdom was within a person. The kingdom is anyone who believes and obeys God's commands. The kingdom is any group that believes and obeys God's commands. The kingdom is the eternal home God has prepared for those who believe and obey God's commands. In other words, the kingdom is the person, the church, and heaven. Jesus warns his disciples that troublesome times will come. Jesus tells them that there will be false predictions. Don't listen to them. He says that the Son of Man will come in a flash of light that will light up the sky. It will be like the days of Noah, unsuspecting, living mundane lives, or like the time of Lot, living in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. When Jesus comes, there's no need to do anything. No matter how close you are to someone, according to the standing with God, one will be taken and the other left. Jesus requires total commitment. 6 times the gospel, Jesus says, "For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall save it. For what is a man's advantage if he gains the whole world and loses himself or be cast away?" No other saying of Jesus is given such emphasis. Since this time is coming, pray, pray, pray. Then Jesus told the disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. In this parable, he shows a widow who was very persistent. Judges of the times. In that day, judges traveled around and held courts in tents. They set their own agendas, and about the only way to have the court case heard was to bribe one of the attendants to bring your case to the attention of the judge. This widow had a couple of things working against her. She was a woman, and women were low in the social ladder. She also had no money to bribe the attendants, so her case was not heard. The widow before the ungodly judge. Jesus said, "In a certain town, there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared what people thought. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with the plea, 'Grant me justice against my adversary.' 'Give me justice,' asked the widow. It's possible that the last thing the judge wanted to hear was a request of a poor widow. Judge has no care or time for the widow. The widow would not take no for an answer. Jesus is teaching painful, persistent, passionate prayer. Our salvation is of the most urgent importance. The widow persistently pleaded with the judge. Jesus is teaching his disciples to pattern for prayer: consistent, insistent, persistent. Pray for a specific problem or thing, not just in general. When we pray for something more specific, we feel closer and go deeper into our conversation with the Father. To get what we desire, we need to be bold in our effort to reach Him. The widow came boldly, daily, focusing intentionally on her needs. Persistence. Despite circumstances, Satan will put many things in our way to try to make us forget the urgency to stay focused on God's will and way. Family, health, work, businesses, church can monopolize our thoughts. God would have his children persistently bold in their effort to reach him. There's no room for feeble desires, lazy attitudes, lethargic efforts, half-hearted petitions. When we pray for salvation, it must be strengthened, urgent, flamed with passion and a desire for strict obedience and love. Pray harder when faced with pressing, crucial opposition. Luke 18:4 through 5, English version. For a while he refused, but afterward he said to himself, though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice so that she will not beat me down by her continual coming. What heaven listens to. We must pray without ceasing, always having a prayer on our lips, or going about our day with a prayerful heart. I would think that God has more to do than to listen to lukewarm, listless prayers. Why should he respond to a quick, indifferent, apathetic plea? The widow's persistence paid off. She received justice. The perspective of prayer, how we should think. God is focused on prayer. It's not about us, it's about him. It is not that God would hear us, for he certainly does, but that we should hear from him. Jesus is warning us against not thinking in the moment. This is nothing normal thinking. We should be prepared for the future, looking ahead for our eternal existence. Certainly, we must take care of the need of the day, but don't let it totally consume our thinking. To always have true peace, keep your eyes on Jesus. Don't let the past and the now be more important than the future. Choose Jesus over the world every moment, every day. We must remember that the value of consistent prayer is not that God will hear us, but that we will hear from him.